You're doing well, yourself?
Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests and friends, good evening and welcome to this celebration of the 20th anniversary of the Charter of the Chalk River Club. It's great to see so many people here to help us celebrate. We do have some distinguished guests with us this evening. I'd like to introduce them briefly. District 61 Governor Sue Delante. District 61 Lieutenant Governor of Education and Training Simon Parker. District 61 Lieutenant Governor of Marketing Frank Schilder. Area 6 Governor Lynn Zander. Haven't missed anybody. It's wonderful to see you all here. I'm sure we're going to have a great evening. It's a good program lined up for you, and for those who haven't eaten here before, I can assure you the food is wonderful. Before we start, before I introduce the Toastmaster for this evening, there are a couple of things I'd like to mention. First of all, some housekeeping items. Please take a moment to notice where the exits are. The room, the door where you came in, obviously. And there are a couple of emergency exits on the other side of this screen, which you may have to break down in order to get over there, or you can actually pass around at the back. The washrooms, there are some on either side of the bar. If you noticed where the bar was, it's just the other side of this screen, on this side and on that side. And there are also some downstairs in the basement. One of the things that I have to make sure of is that everybody has paid. You don't want to be harassed by the waitress every time. So if you don't, the waitress is outside. If anybody has a cell phone or a pager or something else that makes annoying noises, please turn it off so that our speakers won't be interrupted this evening. One more thing, there are a couple of photo albums at the back there which you may like to pass around during the meal. The other thing that I'd like to mention is, well, it's because I can. I'm up here at the podium. And I'd just like to explain the relationship between the Chalk River Club and the Deep River Club, because it's special. Of course, they're our sister club. They're very close geographically. And we interact all the time. Many of the members of the Chalk River Club live in Deep River. We're going backwards and forwards and supporting each other in many ways. So they're our sister club, but it goes beyond that. They're also our mother club. Now, I don't want to get the genealogists on you, but we were spawned from the Chalk River Club in 1990. And they did a lot of hard work to get our club going and get it established. And one of those people who was a founding member of Chalk River Club, who founded our club for us, is here with us tonight. It's great to have you here. Peter Boxer. Okay, I'd like now to introduce our Toastmaster for this evening. This person is a long-standing member of the Chalk River Club, been there for approximately 15 years. He's a staunch supporter of all Toastmaster activities up this end of the valley and all down the valley. He has his ATM bronze and competent leader, a very competent Toastmaster indeed. Please welcome Larry Thompson.
Thank you very much. Mike Atfield from the Deep River Club. I'd like to welcome our club members, our past members, and of course the district officers who also mentioned, area clubs, and anybody who's a guest tonight. We welcome everybody. But we offer a special welcome tonight to our charter club members, and we have 4 of those people who were at the first meeting, the first formation club 20 years ago, and I'd like to acknowledge those people and ask them to stand up. Peter Boxer, Norm Friedman, Ken Philippos, and Pravin Shah. Thank you. tonight is a little different from what is advertised, but what isn't. But we will have welcoming words from our president. We'll have some welcoming words from the district governor. We'll have a number 10 CDM speech, and I'll say more about that later, and a special keynote speech. And at the end of those formal speeches, there'll be an opportunity for anybody who has been in the club for a while or has fond memories to please stand up and take a couple of minutes and tell us what you remember about the club, or the people in it, or what you've been doing since then. So you have an hour or so to think about that. It'd be great to hear your stories. Because of our distance from Ottawa, the 4 area clubs have supported each other pretty heavily. For example, Deep River is a solid hour's drive from Arnprior, as you may recall, from driving up here tonight. But our area governor is from Arnprior. Lynn Zander has visited us quite regularly. And whenever we say we're doing something, Lynn says, "What can I do to help?" So of course, we can't start a Toastmaster event without a toast. And the obvious person we thought was Lynn Zander, our area governor. So please stand with your drink in hand before we have our toast from Lynn Zander.
It is such a great honor to be here, fellow Toastmasters, this evening at this auspicious event. When I think of what I was doing 20 years ago, teaching at Arnprior High School, I knew Chalk River had a nuclear lab. I'd never heard of Toastmasters in my entire life. I've now been a Toastmaster for 3 years, a charter member of Arnprior, and I know how proud I am to be a charter member of Arnprior and how proud I was at our first charter meeting. In order to have an organization like this be successful for 20 years, it involves dedication on the part of past members, current members, and all the executives and club officers for the last 20 years. I am expecting to be back here in 20 years, 58. That will be when I'm 78. Therefore, I would like you to raise your glasses, please, and toast to another 20 successful years of Chalk River Labs Toastmasters.
To another 20 successful years of Chalk River Toastmasters.
Thank you, Lynn. Since we are a company-sponsored club, I have to acknowledge publicly the support of Atomic Energy Canada Limited, who's our home company, for the support that they have continued to give us for 20 years. And I could list the advantages of being a company-sponsored club and list the areas of support that the company has given us, but that would probably take too long. Needless to say, our Vice President, Brian McGee, was invited along tonight, and he unfortunately couldn't make it, but he did send his best regards and congratulations on our 20th anniversary celebrations. I see somebody who's just entered the room, and I have to acknowledge the fact that Helen Schroeder, 20 years ago, decided that ACL actually needed a Toastmaster Club. And you can't start a Toastmaster Club without an official sponsor. And Helen was our official sponsor 20 years ago. Welcome, Helen and Larry. Helen tells me she drove to Chalk River Labs from, where do you live, Beachburg? La Paz. Every week for 6 months to rope these guys in to make them go in the right direction. So, thank you, Helen. I'm glad you did. Is it wherever you like? As Mike says, I've been a member of the Chalk River Labs Toastmasters Club for 15 years. A lot of people ask, why did you be in that club for that long? And I think it's because of the change that I've seen in the club, the members, and the growth that I've seen in so many people. I've seen the club name change from CRML, the N stood for nuclear, to CRL without the N, because some time ago nuclear became a bad word, so now we're in the Chalk River Labs Toastmasters Club. I've had the privilege of knowing people, most of the 110 that are listed on their program tonight. I've known most of them because, as I say, I've been in the club for 15 years. And there's quite a variety of people. There have been new hires into the company. There have been people who've moved away from the area. there have been new graduates, there have been members retiring. But being Toastmasters who completely changed their career paths because they realized that they're actually excellent communicators and they have switched jobs to an ACL. I've seen members being rather quickly promoted to senior management and leadership positions. I've seen people whose...
No, sir.
Wow. Now you have power.
Shall I start again? I've seen members for whom English is a second language come along to the club and progress to the point where they too are being promoted to leadership and management positions within the company. So it's great to see these people develop. Unfortunate thing is they're too busy to attend club meetings anymore. I've also seen members go out into the community and be leaders and communicators in roles within other organizations, such as service clubs. And like you, I've developed lasting friendships with many of these people, and I've even been able to mentor some bright young professionals. It's given me great satisfaction. One of these bright young professionals is our president, Julie Fillion. She's been with ACL for 3 years and with our club for 2 years. I would welcome Julie along to give greetings to our club. Please welcome Julie Fillion.
Fellow Toastmasters, past members, district officials, and most welcome guests. It's my great pleasure tonight to greet you all. Tonight we are celebrating and honoring the achievements of our club. We're looking ahead. And to me it's also very exciting because I get to meet all those past members about whom I hear through stories that members like Larry like to tell, and great anecdotes and great club stories. And now today I get to meet with some of the charter members, and I think we're going to have a great evening. I really look forward to the stories and memories that are coming later on in the evening. Since you'll hear from me later on in a speech, I will cut it short and let our Toastmaster go on.
And as can be seen by the 3 district officers who have driven probably at least 2 hours up tonight through the peak hour traffic, we do get a lot of support from our district officers. We're particularly honoured to have with us tonight our district governor, Sue Delati, and I welcome Sue up now to give greetings from the district. Please welcome Sue Delati.
Absolute honor it is for us to be here this evening. When I was looking through your scrapbook, seeing the memories that you've created already in the 20 years, the one key word that comes to mind is pride. Pride in who you are, pride in where you've come from, and most of all, pride for us in the district, because you've made us who we are today. It's therefore my pleasure on behalf of Simon, Frank, Lynn, and all the other district officers who would have loved to have been here, to wish you all the best. I'm looking forward to hearing the stories at our table. We're fortunate enough to have someone who was there. And we also are looking forward to the stories that we're going to be hearing later on.
Thank you very much, Sue. 2 aspects of a typical Toastmasters Club meeting I like are the icebreaker speeches. This is the first speech you give in public, supposedly, for the courage of the speaker, and the number 10 CTM speech for the dedication of the people who have stuck with it for so long. For the past members, I have to explain that Toastmasters has made a change to what we used to call the basic communication and leadership manual. It's been split now into 2 different streams. There's a communication stream and a leadership stream. And tonight we'll have a number 10 competent communicator speech given by our club president, Julie Fillion. And since we all know that the way Toastmasters improve through receiving considered and intelligent feedback, we have an obvious choice as Julie's speech evaluator for tonight.
Simon Parcher is a Lieutenant Governor of Education and Training, so you'd think you would know about evaluations. He has agreed to give Julie's speech evaluation tonight. Simon, could you please read the objectives of Julie's number 10 speech?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The objectives are to prepare the audience by appealing to noble motives and challenging the audience to achieve a higher level of beliefs and or achievement. My glasses aren't working well now. The second objective is to appeal to the audience's needs and emotions using stories, anecdotes, and quotes to add drama. And the third objective is to avoid using notes. The time is 8 to 10 minutes.
Thank you, Simon. We're lucky to have you tonight. Maurice Cole from the Deep River Club will be our timer, and the timing is from 8 to 10 minutes. Maurice, thank you very much. Julie Fillion is a busy woman. She leads an active auditing group here at the Chalk River Labs. She's involved in community groups. She's our club president, and she still makes time to prepare and write speeches. That takes dedication. Julie's speech title tonight is about our club and is titled 20 Candles and Counting. 20 Candles and Counting. Please welcome Julie Fillion.
Fellow Toastmasters, district officials, and welcome guests. I don't know about you, but when I read about this assignment, number 10, in my manual, I felt intimidated. Not so much by the audience, but by the assignment. To inspire people. That's a tall order to me. I searched long and hard for a topic that would inspire me genuinely, that one that I would convey with so much verve that you too would be inspired. I toyed with a few ideas, had a few false starts. Didn't want anything too personal, too workplace specific. I wanted something that fit the mood of this event. I wanted something that resonated with everyone here and that could enliven our evening. What better inspiration could I get than my 2 years experience with this Toastmasters Club? So tonight, for my Confident Communicator number 10, I will share with you what I saw, how I felt when I first attended meetings as a guest. I hope to demonstrate that I've grown with that Toastmasters Club. And lastly, I will explain the special significance of this 20th anniversary for our club now. My experience with Toastmasters began 2 years and 2 months ago, in the winter of 2005. At that point, despite the many unavoidable presentations I made during the 10 years that I was in university, I still was stiffly uncomfortable speaking before a group. Of course, in the workplace, I'd seen those posters announcing Toastmasters meeting every Wednesday noon, but I thought to myself, a club that practices public speaking? Surely that's no place for me. I don't want that. Well, later on, my computer-savvy friend, Ed Nicholson, invited me to a meeting to hear his speech about Linux. Well, to my surprise, I very much liked the atmosphere of the group. So I went back as a guest. There I met Larry Thompson, who's been an absolute inspiration ever since. On my third attendance, Marcel Hemming gave a well-crafted speech entitled The Ides of March. And in that speech, he brought together Shakespeare, Roman history, Iron Maiden, and popular culture in a fabulous ode to the Toastmasters educational program. Believe me, I was sold. I joined the club that day. To understand where I came from, how I've grown with Toastmasters, let me flash a few snapshots from the past. 20 years ago, after a mandatory and disastrous experience with high school theater, I resigned to being a spectator despite my love of theater. 10 years ago, well into my PhD research, I survived presentations by memorizing a text and repeating it like a robot. Well, fortunately, I studied in a technical engineering discipline where robots were accepted. 5 years ago, when I gave up academic research, naively, I hoped that I would never have to give a presentation again. And tonight, I'm completing my CC, I'm sorry. I was part of the transition. In my first year as club president, which has been awesome in itself. In my introduction, I told you that this anniversary meant something special for us. Through serendipity, it came as an uplifting surprise during a very difficult time. This past winter, last quarter of the fiscal year, we had difficulty with club attendance, meeting attendance. We meet on Wednesday at noon, but our corporate environment involves lunchtime work commitments that we can't get away from. It involves tight schedules and last-minute requests, and so our members come when they can, very often. I remember holding meetings with 3 people covering 4: Sergeant-at-Arms, President, grammarian, there was a timer, there was a speaker, there was a speech evaluator, there was a general evaluator. We had 9 roles for 3 people. We felt like we were playing musical lectern. And at that time, I feared that our club might die for lack of participation. Then came the surprise. One night I was rummaging through our memorabilia, and I noticed the date on our charter certificate, May 8th, 1987. I spread the news among the members, and spontaneously the enthusiasm grew. We have no doubt now, I have no doubt, the Chalk River Labs Club has a fine history and a bright future, and we're eagerly planning for next year's program. We're going to offer interesting workshops. We're going to cultivate collaborations with other clubs. I've had a request from Women in Nuclear to organize something about public speaking. I feel inspired, and I feel like I'm able to say yes. Inspiration is all around. Throughout my time in Toastmasters, there's been inspiration. When I see Bob Russo make a full-length article in the Toastmasters magazine, I feel inspired. When I meet with Lynn Zander, and no matter what the situation, she gives me a wonderfully positive feedback, I feel inspired. And I know that this club has a future. It is my pride to be part of the continuation of this club, which has managed to survive despite challenges. I thought to myself, if past members were able to keep this club healthy and alive for 20 years, why wouldn't we, despite the challenges? And so, tonight, I would like to close with a quote from Dr. Ralph Smedley, the founder of Toastmasters International, who said, about the theory and practice of Toastmasters, we learn in moments of enjoyment. May we enjoy ourselves for 20 more years, and happy anniversary!
Simon will be giving his evaluation after the buffet, which is coming up very soon. But before we get into the food, I have to say that Toastmasters is good at acknowledging accomplishments. And since Julie has finished the last project in her competent communicator manual, we now have to present her with some recognition. I would ask Sue Delati, our District Governor, to come up and present Julie with her competent communicator badge and ribbon. Please come up, Julie.
If I might, I'd like to also ask the area governor to come up. Lynn, would you come up here as well? Help do the honors? This is a huge milestone. Absolutely beautiful moment. I could hear a pin drop when you were talking, and your pride was so obvious. It is such a treat to be able to hear someone say, the program has worked for me. You are a class act to show what Toastmasters is all about, and it is our distinct pleasure to be here to present you with your badge for your competent communicator. Wear it with pride. And we also have one other thing, and I will let the area governor do this. Every year we create a district pin. This pin is handed out to people who achieve educational and leadership activities and accomplishments. It is our pleasure to present you this year's district pin. Ironically, it fits right in with your theme this evening. The theme for our district is Our Future Begins Today. I felt our future definitely begins today in this club. What an exciting time for all of us. Lynn? Are we also handing this one out?
You bet.
We are. To the same woman?
Yes. Oh, dear.
She has been busy.
No. To this man.
Oh, I was going to say. I think I'll let Lynn do the honors on this one, Lynn, if you'd like to.
It gives me distinct pleasure this evening to honor Ed Nicholson with 2 awards. I met Ed this past year and have been most impressed with his dedication to Toastmasters and in particular to the Chalk Rivers Lab Club. I have also seen him at the Deep River Club. As Michael mentioned, people do double duty. Ed this year not only got his CC, he also got his Advanced Communicator Bronze, and he is also being awarded his Competent Leader. This is tremendous dedication to a man who is also serving as Vice President of Education this year, organizing the agendas, and along with Julie and the rest of the executive, coming up with the innovative idea of doing the workshops and many other things. It gives me extreme pleasure to award this to Ed this evening.
I think for the man who does all of the Kodak moments, I think we have a Kodak moment coming up.
Yes. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Thank you very much, Sue, Lynn. Congratulations to our newest recipients of Toastmasters Awards. In case you think that these people get all the honor, everybody attending here tonight gets one of these pins. It should be on your place there, so you can wear it away with pride. I think we're about ready for the buffet as soon as they bring out the roast beefs. Now I'd ask that the middle table goes first. There have to be some person for the district officers for traveling all that way. And then we'll start with the two far tables. You can come up along both sides of the table here. And we'll see you after the buffet.
It looked at me sitting with the executive, so
Yeah, it's hot.
On the bed, that's we're very proud of Denise Woodkey and the Bears down here. They always put on a good show. I think some other people right at this moment, organizing committee for tonight were Julie Fillion, Ed Nicholson, and Laura Boxman. And Laura made the excellent souvenir agenda and also the wonderful pins that everybody should get for them. Thank you very much, Laura. There's some members who are unable to be with us tonight. I just mentioned a couple of them. Ivy Chung, who is a very distinguished president with our club. She actually was the president of the year for District 61, and I think was a runner-up in the district speech contest, international speech contest. A wonderful person. She's in Hong Kong this week, so she's very disappointed that she's not here, but she sends her best wishes. Len Rasmussen, who you might know as the president a couple of years ago, is working for the Pinoa branch of ACL called Whiteshell out in Manitoba. He sends his regards. Lorna Chant is on Vancouver Island, and she said she'd be here in Ontario May 10th, but she obviously misses by 2 days, so that's a pity. Charles Kittner also sends his regards. And there's one more I will read a little later. It seems that ever since I joined Toastmasters, I've been running into Simon Parcher everywhere. If I go to a training session, Simon Parcher is there. And I thought, how long has he been around? And I asked him tonight, and he's been in Toastmasters even longer than I have. He's been in 20 years. Currently, he is the Lieutenant Governor of Education and Training for the district, as I mentioned before, but he's also to be our new district governor. So we're very honored to have Simon along here tonight. And I hope you remember Julie's wonderful speech from before the buffet, because Simon is going to give his evaluation of Julie's speech now. Please welcome Simon Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and welcome guests, and especially you, Julie. Julie, your objective this evening was to inspire us. And inspire us you did. When you came here, you knew what the audience was here for. They were here to reminisce about the Chalk River Club. So you told us not only about the club, but about your experiences as a member for the past 2 years. And here you are as club president already. Boom. So your speech was very good because it told us about the club. And you delivered that speech very confidently, very forcefully. You stood out here in front, you took command of the room, very well done. Now, one thing that you did well was you used stories. It was all about stories. Stories about you, stories about the club. And we could almost imagine that we were there when you had a meeting with 3 people and they were playing musical chairs. We could see that happening. And when you were rummaging through the club's materials and you found that charter, you held it up for us, and we can envision you finding that charter and saying, wow, it's 20 years. This is an opportunity. You used body language very well. You used your hands, and especially your facial expressions were very, very good. You relayed your messages with your expressions in your face. And your speech certainly did uplift the audience. I know that I certainly was, and I felt that everyone was paying really close attention to every word you said, and you could see that they were feeling that they were right there with you. Now, this was a great speech. It might have been even a little greater, maybe, if we didn't have this microphone. Now, I'm using the microphone right now. I don't know if I have to. So maybe as a speaker, I would have tried it without the microphone. Then you would have had 2 hands to do gestures with. So 2 are better than 1, maybe, I don't know. But that's one suggestion. But that's a small area of improvement. It was a wonderful speech. You inspired the audience. You told us about the club. You told us about your experiences, and we're all the better for it. And I want to congratulate you on completing the CC, the Confident Communicator, the first step in your Toastmasters education. And hopefully, before long, you'll be a DTM, and it'll be just like graduating with your masters. So, congratulations.
Thank you, Simon. And of course, you have to get the Vice President of Education to sign this. You have to sign the back of Julie's book.
Oh, yes.
We'll move along to our keynote speaker. And I want to read out an email that I received from Harry Kingston, who I invited along here tonight. And he writes back, "Hi Larry, it would have been a real treat and pleasure to be with the gang at Chalk River. It used to come up quite a lot. But I'm committed already to another club to do a workshop on that date." It sounds like Harry, always busy. So he knew Sue was going to be a keynote speaker. He says, "Sue is a great motivator as a keynote speaker. So I would suggest you build your invitation and promotion around her as district governor. She's an excellent ambassador for this event. So, want to be a fan, Sue?" Sue Delati has been a member of Toastmasters for 8 years. She considers renewing her membership as one of the best decisions she makes every year. She's a proud member of 4 clubs. Pardon my pronunciation. It seems like most of them are French clubs. Corsair's Sussex Speakers, Le Maquis, Rockcliffe Erudite, and Club Avancé Synergie. Sue is our current District 61 Governor with overall responsibility for the network of all the clubs in Eastern Ontario, all of Quebec, and Northern New York State. How many clubs would that be, do you think? 167.
Wow.
It's quite a district. She believes in the Toastmasters educational program, having attained 2 distinguished Toastmaster designations, and she is obviously working on her 3rd one. Sue's been a senior manager with Canada Revenue Agency for almost 25 years, and she is the recipient of numerous awards for her pioneer work in information management, and she credits the feedback and help she's received at the club level in her development as a better speaker, a better leader, and a better person. She looks forward to sharing with us her thoughts on what it takes to be successful in and out of Toastmasters. Please join me in welcoming with a speech entitled "What a Powerhouse," District Governor, DTM, Sue Delati.
I couldn't believe my luck when I heard there was going to be an anniversary on the 8th of May, and you chartered in 1987. When this club was celebrating its very first meeting, I was 2 weeks away for my wedding date with my husband tonight.
Same year.
Now, I heard tonight that the first time that you met, everybody loved the demonstration meeting so much, they signed up right away, and that was that. The club was created. That's very impressive. When I look back to my wedding day, there was 7 weeks from the moment that we decided to get married until our wedding day. 7 weeks. I thought 7 weeks wasn't a lot to plan an event. I can't imagine setting up a demonstration meeting and suddenly a club is born. That probably speaks volumes to the history and the legacy that Chalk River Labs Club is all about. Now, most of the time, when you talk about anniversary celebrations, you always hear about people reminiscing, where they were at, what the club has done for them. And I know we're going to hear that very shortly. Although I am very curious about those kind of stories, I'll tell you what makes me more curious than that. I ask myself, why is this club still here 20 years later when many clubs don't make it past 1? It's true. There are clubs that charter and a year later they folded. And yet, here you are, 20 years later, celebrating together this anniversary. I have a hunch. I'm going to share it with you. I think I have discovered the secret to the success of this club. And perhaps afterwards, when we're talking, you can tell me if I'm right. I should tell you, I believe it anyway, no matter what you're going to tell me. There are 3 key elements that I've seen with this club. The first one is there is obviously a continuity of leadership in this club. What pride I felt when I looked at the list of people who have come from this club. District governor from this club. Contest winners from this club. There are obviously very strong leaders that continue year after year after year. How come? I only have to look at your newsletter to tell me why. The packages that are on the table, for those of you who haven't had a moment to look at them, do so. The articles in these newsletters are about mentoring, about profiling members so you know what their backgrounds are, signifying accomplishments of what other members have done. What that tells me is people here are proud of what they've done and they want to remember that pride year after year after year. It's not just that. I look at Julie, for example. Now, Julie, you may not have known this, but Marcel and I'm trying to remember exactly when, Marcel.
I wouldn't be surprised was a citizen building.
Ah, I think you're right. We were in the parking lot. We were talking about his club. He was excited about what a great time he was having. He was talking about future leaders. My natural question was, who's coming up? Big, big smile on his face. And he described Julie. From having met you and seen you up here, he did a very good job.
Bravo, Marcel.
It was obvious that he had a lot of pride in her. He knew the future was very, very bright under her possible leadership. And here we are. She gave us her number 10. He was right. There's obviously a continuity. I look around the room, I see people like Ed, people who have been very strong leaders and who are still here. They don't have to be at the front of the parade. Although he's pretty close. I get it. What that tells me is, it isn't just about taking on a leadership role, and once that's happened, it's done. People in this club like to help people coming in after them. They stay with them, and they are very happy with their accomplishments. So the continuity of leadership is extremely important and is very vivid and obvious. Bravo. The second key element for me is commitment to the Toastmaster program. Let's face it, I'm the district governor. Of course I'm going to be looking to see who's committed to the program, right? It isn't about the ribbons. That's not what I'm noticing about this club. What I've noticed is you've had some challenges over the past couple of years. I can see that. But you never gave up. We heard that tonight. You could have. It would have been easy, but you didn't. And I look at the accomplishments on the educational side already this year. For those of you who are not keeping track, that is competent communicator number 4 already this year alone. Wow. 4. They didn't stop there. They've also got competent leader. I believe yours made it 2. Are you the first or the second? I believe he might be the second. Already, in Toastmaster International's eyes, this is a distinguished club. Already. One key point I want you to keep in mind. Toastmasters indicates that if you attain goals and you maintain a certain level of your membership, you will receive a ribbon. I want you, if for no other point, I want you to keep this one in mind. Whether you get the membership numbers or not, you have accomplished distinguished club achievements. And that signifies this is a strong club. Don't judge yourselves by the ribbons you receive for your banner. Ribbons signify accomplishments, but it's the members' accomplishments that signify the strength. And you've done that already in this year. I'm very proud of that. I am very, very proud. When I look at the past 2 years, I know educational achievements have been a struggle. This year, they're not. I feel very, very proud of the group. You are obviously committed to the program. You are bettering yourselves in the program. You are strengthening yourselves as a club. What a wonderful thing to observe as part of the district executive. The third area, when I look at this club, and the one that makes me the most proud, is your legacy. Many of you who are a member of this club, you take for granted those books over there with the photos and the lists of the charter members and the programs of your early anniversaries. You are lucky to have that legacy. You are fortunate to be able to look back and say, That's my roots. That's where we started. Recognizing that right this moment, you are creating a legacy for someone else that you may not even have met. Someone else is going to be coming into this club with that same nervousness that we all do when we first came into a meeting. And someday, because of someone in this room, their photos will be in there. They will be recognized as having accomplished activities in this club. They will continue to be Chalk River Labs. That's the legacy that you are leaving. That's the legacy that those that came before you created. I am so happy that the sponsor of the club is here. I have to tell you, when you came over to see Ken, her first question to him was, "Are you still a member?" And when he said yes, the beautiful smile that came on her face. 20 years later, she cares. That's the legacy that you are a part of. That's your roots. How fortunate. Let me ask you this. For those of you who first came into this club, were you brought in by someone else? Did someone suggest this might be useful for you? Do you know where they are now? How many of you have someone in this room that suggested that you come into the club? Anyone here? We heard one here. We have a few others. Keep in mind, for those of you who have helped people move ahead, even if it is once a year, come back. Not just to the parties. Come to a meeting. Come and live again the joy of being a member, regardless of whether you are still a member or not. Come back to the anniversary parties. Come back to the meetings. And revel in the good feeling of having been a part of this accomplishment and this creativity. Speaking of creativity, one last point that I want to mention that I really notice about this particular club, you're a corporate club. And yet you have some of the most amazing, creative, and hilarious people that I have met ever in Toastmasters. You know what that says to me? That this is a company that's worth looking at. One thing you should keep in mind, regardless of whether you were a Toastmaster or not, regardless of what your hat is, you represent the organization that you are a part of. You are the face of AECL. To me, when I hear creative people, when I see people who are not afraid to be funny, that says a lot to me about the company. How many of you who are part of that corporation are proud of what you have accomplished as an organization? You should be. I couldn't help thinking when Larry was mentioning about nuclear and how that's a bad word. Your company is known. You are the leading edge for testing of nuclear electricity, as I understand it. And the medical isotopes that are created with this organization have helped millions of people around the world. That, too, is a legacy. You're not just creating a legacy within Toastmasters. You're part of something worldwide recognized. What a wonderful combination. What an absolutely powerful combination. the term powerhouse, I was thinking not only of Toastmasters, but of the organization where this club meets. That is a 1-2 punch that if this club ever did decide to stop, would be a gap. A gap for our district, a gap for your organization, a gap for the community. When I look around this room, for those of you who are part of this beautiful club, I'm jealous. Yes, I'm a member of 4 clubs, and I love them. We don't have that history. We don't have that visual snapshot of where we've come from. I do recognize, though, that in Toastmasters, we learn from each other. I therefore thank this club for reminding me how important it is to remember our roots. When I go back to my 4 clubs, I'm going to spread the word of what a rich legacy this club has, and why don't we have that too? We may not be able to gather the information of who our members are from the last 20 years. I have to tell you, one of my clubs is 38 years old. 38! We haven't kept that at all. And we can start today. We can begin today, so that future generations can at least see where we are now. You've helped me in that regard. It would be so easy to say our club was struggling. It would be so easy to say our work pressures are keeping me from going to the meetings. It would be so easy to say something else is more important right now. The fact that this club continues says to me you recognize this is important for you. This is an important part of who you are. That makes me feel very good. Your heritage is our district's heritage. Because of your club, that's the reason why District 61 is strong. Without that continued fortitude, we wouldn't continue to exist. It would be very easy to fold. You didn't. It would be very easy to say, I'm too busy. You didn't. Catherine Logan has a saying that I love. She says, the place you are in now needs you. When I heard that, I thought of this club immediately. Your organization, your club, needs you right now. You may not be able to be there every week, but they'll be looking forward to having you back whenever you're able to come back in. I wish you continued success. I only wish I lived closer. And don't be surprised at some point that I don't make the trip back up the valley and come into one of your club meetings. I have a feeling I would be a lot more energized, not just because of the organization, but because of the people that are in that club. I look forward to coming back and celebrating future anniversaries with this club. There's no doubt in my mind, our future begins today. Our district will continue to thrive because of clubs like Chalk River Labs. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Sue. Harry Kingston was right, wasn't he? I now ask our President Julie Fillion to present a little gift on behalf of the club for coming all the way and inspiring us like that. Julie? Thank you. And while we have Sue at the front, he would like to present two more district pins, two people who have achieved the recognition through the years. She's already mentioned one is Marcel Hemming, who received his Competent Communicator, which he's wearing proudly tonight. Please come up front, Marcel.
Once again, our beautiful and talented Area 6 Governor, Lynn Zander, to join me in front. I mentioned before that we have a district pin that symbolizes the educational and leadership accomplishments. Although you are getting this for your competent communicator, I truly believe this is a very strong leader that I've been watching in our district. Therefore, with Lynn and me, it gives me great pride on behalf of the district to award you as well, my friend, District 61. And we have one other person that we do want to recognize. Do you want to do the honors, or I'll just mention? Zhou Wangjung also achieved a competent communicator. He unfortunately is not able to join us in this celebration. We did want to publicly recognize him as well. Lynn will find an opportunity to present him with his district pin at a future date. But for him, let's give a big round of applause. And one last special personal award from your own Area 6 government. Whenever I visit this club, what impresses me is that they always display all their awards and achievements. The meeting is very rushed. They only have 55 minutes, but Julie and the crew take great pains to have everything laid out, their banner, their ribbons, everything that represents their club. And I was trying to think of how I could honor them today, and I thought what I would do is give them another certificate for their wall or table. And this just says, congratulations. Herewith acknowledge that Chalk River Labs Club number 6536, in recognition of accomplishment for 20 years of Toastmasters success, has been duly selected to receive this certificate of congratulations. 20th Anniversary Charter, given at the anniversary dinner this 8th of May in the year 2007, and signed by yours truly. It gives me great pleasure to present this.
One more. Very good.
Thank you. Now. No.
Thank you very much, Sue. I'd now like to ask any of the previous, former, past, retired, whatever members, if they have any memories to share with us. And I know Peter Boxer has already indicated he would like to say a few words. Would you like? You don't need this, do you, Peter? I know you.
Thanks, Larry. Well, it was a little over 20 years ago that a dozen or so curious people showed up at one lunch meeting. And these curious people showed up at this meeting called Toastmasters, and unlike you, they didn't know anything about the club. And they weren't driven to become public speakers or leaders. They just showed up because they were curious. There's Curious George and Curious Ken and Curious Peter. Well, I showed up, and it's not quite the way you said, Sue.
No?
I mean, you know, we had a discussion of Toastmasters and all that, and then before you knew it, there were elections. And Ken and I were standing for club president. I mean, it didn't even get a chance to leave the meeting and say, well, you know, let me think about it. Get back to me tomorrow.
He became the president.
There were two defining moments in my career, I think. One was when I was in grade 11, and I took a grade 9 typing course. And this was in the days before computers. And we still had slide rules. I think a lot of my staff wish I didn't type so as well as I do, and they might get fewer emails. But grade 9 typing and joining Toastmasters. And this wasn't a destiny thing. I just showed up out of curiosity, got elected president, and that was, in retrospect, one of the best things that ever happened to me. As I say, I wasn't driven to become a Toastmaster or a public speaker, or let alone a leader. But being the club president, Ken and I think, went through all of the club positions over our careers there. We learned, at that time when I first joined, I was an arrogant physicist. I'm a humble manager. Toastmasters helped me make that transition from an arrogant physicist to a humble manager. I realized that, like, I hadn't had any leadership positions before then. I realized that other people had good ideas. I know that may sound, as I say, it's arrogant physicist. And even my little humble ideas would be amplified and improved 100-fold if, you know, once other people worked with them. So I personally learned how to work with a team. I acquired some leadership skills. I even learned to say a few words now and again. So it's been a really worthwhile endeavor for me, and I'm really proud to be here 20 years later. And as Sue said, it's not a given. It's not cast, I don't think, on those granite tablets somewhere that Toastmasters shall live forever. And I'll take your words to heart, and give me a shout every now and again, Julie and Larry, and I'll come out. And it's a good idea. And there's been a lot of people in those 20 years, as has been said, who've made this club successful. And over 100 people listed there who benefited from the club and who continue to benefit from it. So thank you to the current leadership for keeping it going. And for all the past and current members, let's give ourselves a pat on the back.
Who's next? Ken.
Somebody asked me, are you still in the club? I said, yes. I'm a very slow learner. This is especially true because Toastmasters, the people I met in Toastmasters, the most generous, wonderful, friendly people are the people who taught me how to say something that other people can understand. Because I thought I was speaking very well, only when they started to tell me, hey, Ken, you're only saying half the sentence. Enunciate, protect your words, do this, do that. Okay, great. When I look back, Larry mentioned that Toastmasters provide you great opportunities at age here to become great managers and whatnot. It has happened for a few people like Peter Boxart, but never happened to me. Nobody picked me up to be a vice president the way he's here. But having said that, I have grown in my own way. I choose the alternate way. I'm not saying this to brag myself, but as a testimony what Toastmasters can do for you. Give you the kind of confidence to join the professional union become the vice president, and then become the chair of the union for many years. Take on Toastmasters, become a president and area governor, and have the courage to be a master of ceremony for many functions. And so in my own way, I found Toastmasters helped me to be a leader. I was like Stephen Covey say, there are public victories and private victories. Many of my victories are private, and I'm very proud of that. So Toastmasters is all about people. And I have seen people like, we invited Harry Kingston to come and speak to us. This man drove all the way from, I don't know where, Ottawa or Kingston, all the way over here, and just to give us a keynote speech. And then drove all the way back. He wouldn't even accept a gift. And when I saw that, I said, this is something. The people in this club, they transform people to do such wonderful things, such selfless acts. And that's what inspired me. In my own small way, I try to help people, but there are great examples. I can never fill their shoes. I just want to take a few moments just to finish some other things. Like Peter Boxall, our first president of the club, I heard him speaking many speeches. You have seen him on the roller skates there, one of the snapshots. The speech I remember most is your speech about the cremation of Sam McGee. I thought that was wonderful. I wasn't familiar with the story, but it was very intriguing. And also, because he's a farmer too, he was telling us time after time how he was rounding up those nervous pigs and trying to get them into the pen, and the pigs are not that cooperating, and what he did and what not. Great stories. And who can forget Frank Van Hook? He's not here today, but he is one of the funniest guys I ever saw. Everything he said was made people roaring in laughter. And some of the stories from Praveen Shah, the Blue Roses, about different people, that was very touching. Marcel Hemming, how can you forget Marcel Hemming, one of our fearless leaders. Marcel has grown tremendously with the Toastmaster, but he has tremendous fear of table topics. But it just shows that God doesn't give everything to everybody. So, however, because he was a club president, he thought he should lead by example, so he will enlist himself into every table topic contest there is. And then he will stand up there, totally blank out, and then stand there saying, how come that green light isn't showing yet? But that was honor, but he was great leader, great sense of humor, did very well himself. And Larry Thompson, of course, I remember him for such caring and sensitive evaluations, helping us along, encouraging us all. So I'm sure I didn't mention all of, okay, I cannot forget Helen. She's our sponsor. Actually, these people, they came, they set a table there. First time I see a Toastmaster meeting in progress, and they conducted themselves with such a professional way, and all those things were going for timing and everything else. Wow. Like comparing to some other meetings we have, total confusion and chaos, and this was so like a clockwork. And I also remember, Helen, if I could remember one of the district conferences where you were a master of ceremony, and you were introducing one of the table topics. I still remember the table topic you were giving out to people, and it was something to do with saying that, well, the guest of honor is going to be delayed a few minutes because he is in the washroom with his shirt, cocktail stuck in his pants. So please entertain the crowd for a couple of minutes. So, I mean, what kind of a topic is that, right? People were looking around, and one person came and said, oh, if that guy was wearing kilt, he wouldn't have had this problem with the zipper. Somebody else said, While I was thinking about this, let me tell you another story. Somebody talked about the sex life of mosquito, another one talked about about this whale because there were a couple of whales were refusing to go back, and she was talking about that, and such a fantastic meeting. So these are the kind of people that we have in this club that I consider myself lucky to have been associated with. And I'm a very proud member of this club, and I have learned a lot. And I thank you for all your officers coming all the way here, helping us along. And congratulations to the organizers. Happy anniversary.
Would you like to struggle?
I think I have a projecting voice. Once I finished my CTM, I became selfish and moved away from Toastmasters. No, that's not the real reason. The real reason is I'm a practical engineer. But I still remember Peter Boxers and his arm swing and talking and Ken Philpotts and all those guys. But one of the things I don't remember in the early Toastmasters club is hugging. New club has come up with a hugging. That kind of pains me a little bit because I missed all the hugs. Now that I have retired from AECL, I don't think so I'll come back to get my hugs back. But the crowd was very good. The Toastmasters Club early days were very exciting. When I made a speech on blue roses, I still remember it. One guy, and I know the guy, I won't name him, very, very good guy. Always whenever he meets me in the chocolate site or in the corridor or bumps into me, he keeps on reminding me, your speech was so good, can you give it again? So it's like our children, you know, if you raise so much, they move away from it, right? So maybe that contributed a little bit to me. I said, I don't want to be very successful in speech making. I would rather be a practical engineer and help the company that way. But all the guys were very good. The interface was very good. One of the things about Toastmasters Club, and I think everywhere else, but in Tokyo it is very pronounced. There is no color, there is no sex, there is no nothing. Everybody is equal. People come from India, China, Africa, local people, Australia. We don't see anybody differently. We are all together as one. Isn't that the Canadian way?
Yes.
That's what we learn. And my speeches along the years, and I have been giving a lot of speeches too, because I have been chair of many other societies and with these speeches. One of the themes is that's the Canadian way. We are all together, and that's the Toastmaster Club speeches. Yes, I want you guys to remember and take it back and always keep it in focus. When we are talking about Toastmaster members, we recognize everybody across the board and without any favor and favoritism and anything, and that's what Toastmaster Club does. Thank you very much.
Good evening, I'm Toastmasters and our guest. I'm the past member of Vancouver Toastmasters, and I'm glad to see so many people I knew and so many new faces, our guests. And today I want to share some of my memory with the Toastmaster. I joined the Chalk River Toastmaster in year 2000, and when I was doing my speeches, one of my speeches was about I proposed a mini nuclear reactors. Every family has one, and power house forever. One reactor power one house can last forever, and people loved it. And the other speech, I remember I simulated Toastmaster organization. It's international. I propose a new business. It's a organization, I forgot exactly what the wording was, but organization similar to Toastmasters based on volunteers as what the Toastmasters do. And for senior people, whoever retired, they join that club, and before they get to the time where they need somebody to look after them, they volunteer their time to look after the more senior people. And they pay the membership fee. When they are young, when they start younger, they pay less. If they start older, they pay more. And the fundamental of that is everyone loves their home. No one wanted to move into the long-term care center sooner. And that business I proposed came from that day. Each time he met me, he asked me, "What is your business?" "Well, I won't buy your stock." Today he asked me again. Right now about Ken, I remember it. He has been so helpful, and English is my second language. I don't speak perfect English, even not close to ideal. Yeah, and one time I remember pretty well. I spoke about a Chinese saying, old saying says, "Failure is the mother of success," and Ken corrected my pronunciation because I didn't pronounce failure well. I don't know if I'm pronounce it correct or not now. But Ken has been always helpful and even promoting my business.
Jack, you want to remember that one?
Sorry?
Jack's not going to.
Thank you very much. I'd like to say a few words about Area 6, if I might, and Division B, and some of the great leadership that you've had. I guess it was John Kennedy that said, "Ask not what you can do for your... Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." I guess I was feeling a bit prideful when I thought, I had done most things in Toastmasters, and perhaps it was time for me to become an area governor. And not everybody was as equally enthusiastic about the idea. But finally someone came to me, I think it was France, who was then the district governor, and she said, "Well, first Simon offered me an opportunity which would have taken me down to New York. And then France offered me Area 6. And my first question is, where is Area 6? And where is the Ottawa Valley? I'm a Toronto boy. And so I came up here. And I traveled up here. And I had great mentors. I had Fred Schuck, who won the evaluation contest at the district. He did a tremendous job. I met Len Rasmussen. I met Bob, all of whom had contributed to this club. And I have to credit the Chalk River Club in particular for teaching me humility. For teaching me that it was not what Toastmasters could do for me, but what I could do for these clubs. I remember meeting Madhu and, the great club they had. And coming out to Chalk River, I remember that Fred Schuck had come up before me with blasting caps in his trunk and had a little problem getting through security. I think they told him that it's okay if somebody could bring him in, but leave the truck out there. it was a great first impression that he made. And I came up and I gave a speech to the Chalk River Club, and after that the evaluator got up and said, I don't know whether that was really a speech or how to evaluate it. And somebody said, this is your area governor. And, you know, that didn't impress him. A tremendously honest club. You know, they didn't pull any punches. They told you what they thought. And so it's, you know, I just love the Chalk River plan, because when you drive up there and get to that security, it's the closest thing to Algonquin Park I've ever seen. That 11 kilometers in, I keep thinking I'm going to hit a moose, but it never happened yet. And if the right person isn't there to let you in, you don't get in. But it's well worth making the entrance. And at first, I was a bit hesitant. My wife said to me, you know, you can't drive that far and come back at night. So I bunked with Len Rasmussen, and I remember Len, at 8:30 he was going to bed, and he said, the only time I can get any work done at the Chalk River plant is if I get up at 4:30 before I have to go to a meeting. And he was serious. I realized these were dedicated people. And, you know, I've continued to be impressed. The struggles that they have gone through at each of the clubs in Area 6 are the struggle to draw members into limited population groups. But they've never given up. I remember Madhu, she never gave up. None of the clubs gave up, and they just kept forging. I think Renfrew did, because I met the area governor here from 20 years ago, Helen back there, and she was telling me there was a previous Renfrew club, so I guess one gave up. But I haven't heard about too many more, and you've got a wonderful area governor here in Lynn. And Lynn is a person that always goes into the contest. I'm probably talking about more of Area 6 than just the Chalk River Club. But Chalk River is a good example of an enthusiastic club that, despite the odds of struggling within a corporate environment where people are expected to go to meetings at a minute's notice, has shown a great deal of fortitude in keeping going. And congratulations. I'm happy to be here. I wouldn't be here except for the heroic driving of Bob Russo, who can do a 200-mile drive in about 70 minutes. I don't know how he does it. But I learn every time. And bounce a coffee on his knee at the same time. And, you know, he does a great job. And everybody here that has served the club, right up to the district governor, Sue Delante. That was the most wonderful buttering up job I ever heard. I think you did a great job, and I'm proud to be part of District 61, and proud to have been an area governor for Area 6. Thank you.
Alan, your turn for a rebuttal here, I guess. Alan Trudeau.
Mr. Chairman, honored guests and fellow Toastmasters, it's been about 12 years since I've given a Toastmasters speech. And I was trying to remember how long ago I started Toastmasters. Maybe someone here can remember the area government, you know, when the Pembroke Club started. I was there at the beginning. It was about 27 years ago, maybe, something like that.
1878?
Something like that. Anyway, it was Joe Kowalski who got me into the Pembroke Club when it started way back, and he had the vision that we should have Toastmasters in the Pembroke area. So we were over at his place one night, and my heart was stopping just thinking about it at the time, but he dragged me out to a meeting, and after my first meeting I was hooked. So I started going to every meeting after that and met some wonderful people, and I'm still friends with most of them now that are in the area. And just to have those friends and to remember all the wonderful speeches and the table topics and all that was coming back to me. I'd forgotten so many things over the years, because like I said, it's been 12 years since a meeting. And just to remember the evaluations and whatnot, it was a wonderful time. And when I was thinking about going for my DTM, at that time you had to sponsor a club. So there was 2 of us that were going for a DTM. And Marg Rubel started the Renfrew Club. That's why I know there was a Renfrew Club, because she needed the Renfrew for her DTM, and said, well, where am I ever going to start a club in this area? So my husband was working at Chalk River at the time, and we thought, well, why not Chalk River? So we had to condense our 2-hour meeting into a 55-minute meeting, and it seemed to go very well. And I remember our first meeting so well with Peter Boxar and a few other people, and yes, we had a wonderful group that came out from Pembroke, and we had rehearsed that and rehearsed it, so we would look like we knew what we were doing when we came out for our first meeting. So it was a great meeting, I remember, and I had wonderful support from my own home club. And they supported me through the 6 months or so that I came back and forth and made sure that this club was well established, and it took off like wildfire. And that's, of course, saying credit to the wonderful people that were in the charter. And so thank you for having me out this evening. It was nice to see everyone again, and I'd love to come out again if you invite me. I might even show up at a meeting. It's been so long. I don't even know when you meet anymore, so.
Same time.
Pardon me?
Same time.
Same time. So I'll have to find out what that is, and maybe someday I'll just surprise you and show up at a meeting. So congratulations on the 20 years. I feel like a mother back then. I had to let the bird out of the nest and hope for the best, but it looks like the 20 years and you're still here, and so it looked like the bird has done well. Congratulations.
People said they would like to come back and visit the club, and we'd be absolutely thrilled to see you. One of the members of the executive a few weeks warning, because security regulations have changed a lot since you last visited our club. Who's next?
You can bring it down in my feet.
Larry Howard.
Fellow Toastmasters, myself. I wasn't going to speak until I looked at speakeasy. It always reminds me of drinking for some reason. But in this particular one, it describes me. I was introduced to Toastmasters 2 or 3 times before I decided to join. That would have been Rick Murphy, Charlie Kitmar, and Ken Chapman. Why did I join? It says here, I was never short of words, but getting them out in an organised way was tough. The photograph of me is brilliant. That was my wedding photograph, over 40 years ago. What else did it trigger? Oh, the real reason, this is going to be short for you. I discovered, reading this, why I had been pressured into joining the Toastmasters. At the end of this little introduction, I've just joined. When did I join? June 19, this was written in June 1995. I now find myself the new treasurer of the Chalk River Lads Toastmasters Club. The reason Rick, Charlie and Ken had twisted my arm was they did not want the job. Actually, I did get some benefits from joining. It wasn't too many years after this that I retired. I retired in 9 years ago. Since then, I was, amongst other things, captain of our local golf club. And one of the things you're supposed to do at golf clubs when you're captain is organise everything in sight and give presentations that aren't boring. Bit of advice on that one. When guys have been playing golf for 18 holes, had 18 beers, they don't want a long speech. Just give out the prizes and get out the way. Thanks for these couple of minutes to say that I did gain something from Toastmasters, even though my arm was twisted initially.
Okay, I don't. You're right. I do work better with two hands. It's hard to believe how nervous I was as a person speaking in front. And even now, just even thinking about sitting there and thinking about standing up and getting up, I was breathing hard and almost blacking out. The deer in the headlights, that's very much me. Well, by the way, Maurice, make sure that that light box is not turned off. The green light or the red light. I'm good. For the arrogant physicist, the proud chemical engineer insists that chemistry happens to matter. It only happens to matter. We talked about earlier about the people and so on and so forth, but even without the people, the Toastmasters process, the manuals are so well written. The people are what really enhance it, but the whole process. Like the last few speeches I wrote, all were my revelations about my own process through the process, my progress through the process. Like one of the titles was Isomart. That was the last one of that series. And then I talked about metamorphosis, gifts, black boxes. Just give me a second here. Oh, that's the other funny thing. I've had a lot of evaluations, and almost every one of them said I had a problem with my glasses. And I had a problem with reading. So I don't, and Barry actually wrote something, and Ken wrote something, and I just, okay, I give up. I have to use my palm. But this is remarkable for me because most people have seen me, even right here, 1 year ago, 1.5 years ago, reading a humor speech contest from paper. You saw that. A few other people saw that. Not my biggest day, but everybody shook my hand afterwards saying that was the funniest speech they heard that night. But anyway, so I'm going to speak from just above my stomach, or continue. Let's see. Oh, when I was president, and Julie related a little bit of that too, and so did Sue, keeping the airplane above the trees. I did that during my time. Julie did that during her time. And one of the godforsaken images in my mind was the ghosts of Christmas past. We had to keep this thing going for legacy, for all the proud triumphs that we couldn't dare let this thing fumble during my time and then Julie's time. And whose time is it next month?
Wow. To be discussed tomorrow.
Oh! But anyway, so it's just like Charles Dickens. I related to one time at the beginning of a table topic. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And very much like my first Toastmaster meeting where I went through all these quaint activities. But it's the democratic process. Only one person speaks at any time. Sharing. There's a lot of things that go on that you absorb into your whole mental and physical process. One of the other things, and I'll just conclude by saying, I actually found a secret society. And what I mean by that is, it's like insects, like ants and bees. They contribute to everyone else's welfare, and they use chemistry. And people like before is that people are dedicated and committed to help. And as you know, one of the most terrifying journeys you can make is the first journey to the lectern. There's somebody sitting there who I sat right beside, and I could sense a weak pain at one time. Her first speech was very well done, but she was like that all the time, and so was I. But what I mean about secret is that it is too secret, that not enough people get the benefit of it. And it's I was glad that someone found me at the NRU registry, and I was moaning about what's wrong with management. Maybe it's me. So they said, well, come to the Toastmasters meeting. Maybe we can make improvements in you. And that's true. That did happen. But no one else from NRU management came to it. But anyway, that's how I'll conclude, is we should reach out. We should not be embarrassed to reach out and invite people to share this wonderful process and all these wonderful people and all these anecdotes. I have a whole bunch just about Kent. But that's enough of that. So, that's good.
Thank you, Russell. A few more minutes. Who else? Larry Sherwood.
I'm going to stand before you tonight in another capacity. I've never been a member of Toastmasters, but I've lived with the DTM for a long time. And I know an awful lot about your organization. I'm a graduate of ACL. But when I was here, I'll tell you the corporate story. When I was here, one of my roles was to run the training and development function. And in that function, I'm embarrassed to say at this point in time, that I used to spend good money hiring and bringing in people to do presentation skills training. 2 or 3 days at a time. We all felt really good about how we were changing people's presentation skills by doing the normal way of corporate training. I did go to Toastmasters a few times as a guest. And I have a conjugal relationship with a Toastmaster. And I very quickly learned that there are many other ways to create corporate learning than to hire professionals to come in and impart knowledge. And so the concept of running a Toastmasters inside a corporation is one of the best investments a corporation can make in professional development. And it is one of the most cost-effective. It is one of the most employee satisfaction-wise, one of the most beneficial, and it's one of the most long-lasting. I can tell you now that I will never be able to find a single person who attended one of the 3 or 4 dozen effective presentation skills courses 20 years ago that are still practicing today exactly what they do all the time. But with this group, it's here, and we do it. So I want to congratulate you from that perspective. I want to also comment, there's another word up there after Toastmasters, and that's international. And although I work for another corporation now, I do have employees on 5 different continents that I have some development responsibilities for. And I have a very simple request of them when we do a professional development session is look in the phone book, find the local Toastmasters club, and consider signing up. And I have people singing the praises of that wisdom years later. So there are people today that are in Toastmasters in Paris, in Singapore, in other countries in Europe, and they are benefiting from the development side of this. So this is a learning mission, and this is a great association and a great club and a great networking program that you're in. And the corporation that has allowed you to do this deserves full credit. Thank you.
Bring you next time.
Awesome.
1 or 2 more? Norm Friedman.
Not sure I need this, but I'll use it anyway. I was one of the first 12 who showed up deer in the headlights to see what Toastmasters could do. And we had an opportunity early on to stand up and say why we were here and all the good stuff. And my comment was, I'm here to learn to shut up. I talk too much and I don't say very much. Maybe Toastmasters could help me focus my thoughts, as somebody else said earlier. And I'm still working on that after all these years. I had 4 daughters to raise, so I got a little busy, and I was member for about 3 years, I think. I enjoyed every minute of it. I continue to encourage other people to join Toastmasters. As far as continuity, my 22-year-old daughter earlier this year was thinking about applying to law schools. She said, "Dad, what sort of things can I do to make my resume look a little better?" And I said, "Well, you might try Toastmasters." And to my shock and surprise, next thing I know, she said, "Dad, I need $50. I just joined Toastmasters." And she just renewed her membership a few weeks ago, so she's sticking with it. Seems to be really enjoying that. So where I started 20 years ago, she's carrying the torch right now. It's a great organization. I was glad to be part of it. Larry hopes me to come out tonight, and I might show up again for the odd meeting just for old time's sake.
John, you're thinking about it, aren't you?
Yeah.
John, let's go.
I've heard all about these successes of Toastmasters today, but I want to tell you about my most embarrassing failure. And that was in the early 90s, 93, 94, somewhere like that. And we had an area competition at Key's school. And I entered the area competition, and I had been practicing my speech for almost a week, and I had all the gestures in the mirror, and I was walking up and down and getting the words right in, and they were deep, they were fundamental, and they were important. And on the duly appointed day, feeling like the deer in the headlights, I walked up to the podium, and I started, and I was going to give it hell. I got the first phrase out, and then my mind went blank. I mean blank. There was just a plain sheet in front of me. You know, you talk about writer's cramp, writer's blank, but this was a speaker's blank. I had not yet learned the other part of public speaking, which was when something like this happens, you waffle. You say, a little bullshit here, a little bullshit there, it goes along the way. And, you know, one of the people that I regarded was very important at that time was Archie Robertson, who was always debating nuclear issues with David Suzuki. Archie has long since retired, but David Suzuki, unfortunately, is still going strong. But Archie would say, "Argument weak, speak forcefully." And I've never forgot that, but I did forget my speech on that day.
You remember that occasion, John. And then the speech evaluator had to get up and say some kind words about you. And she did, and you came back and kept speaking. And I'm glad you're here tonight. Thank you. Marcel, you've had your moment of glory.
Actually, I've recovered enough to offer a toastimonial. And this is for whoever's in that camera there to discuss the process. You can change a man, a really nervous man, into a very attractive person for women. and that happens because apparently there's nothing more attractive than a man that's very confident in his ability to speak. And even more attractive is his ability to go into the kitchen and do the dishes. And Norm alluded to it earlier, the most important thing is to stop talking to yourself and listen. That apparently is the most attractive quality that a man can have.
We've almost run out of time. I'm going to explain what this lump of wood is doing here. When Julie was looking through the paraphernalia, she discovered some strange things, and she asked Ed and I, "What is this lump of wood doing?" It actually had this on one side. He said, "Oh, that's the 5th anniversary party that these guys must have had. So I guess for the 20th we have to write the same thing on the back." He said, we will ask somebody here tonight, what is the significance of this? Julie said, guys, 5 years, wood anniversary, 20th, China anniversary. This is not China. I want to thank everybody for coming along here tonight and ask, are there any messages on behalf of Toastmasters before we close this evening? This is where the district officers usually stand up and talk on and on, but I guess you've all been elected, so it's okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Simon Pasha.
One announcement. We just had a spring conference. I'm not sure who all was there, but it was in Aylmer at the Chateauguay Hotel. The next conference we're going to have is on November 16th, 17th, and 18th in Mont-Tremblant, Quebec. It's going to be probably the loveliest location we've ever had for a conference. And it's going to be a great conference. We're going to have world champion speaker Ed Tate. He was the 2004 world champion of public speaking. He's going to be there as our keynote speaker. And we're going to have a Bavarian night on Friday night, a Viennese waltz night on Saturday night. The theme's going to be the sound of Toastmasters in keeping with the sound of music. So, even though it's a bit earlier, mark your calendars for mid-November. It's the first night of the ski season, and it's also the Christmas lights will be up as well. So it'll be festive and pretty and beautiful, so don't miss it.
Simon? And if you wish to go up 2 days early or stay 2 days after, the hotel will extend you their special rate of $112 a night.
That's right. Good. Thank you.
And I'm not sure Mont-Tremblant is the nicest location ever for a district conference, because we did have one once in Pembroke.
We did.
On that note, I wish you all safe driving. Good night. Thank you for coming.
Yes, I'm happy. At some point, we were having getting people to answer. We didn't have many people. We didn't even have enough people to have a buffet. And slowly things came in, and we persuaded Bernice to have the buffet, even though we didn't have 30 people yet. And by the time the event came, we had more than we needed. But well, tonight we have 32 people to say. Yeah, but it took a while for them to confirm as
Wonderful. That would be great. Thank you, Ed.
Yeah, I like to wait till the last minute before they give an answer.
You're recording it direct or great stuff. Neat. You do that every night or? No, just for
yes.
Nice to
yes.
No?
send us
Get a little obsolete.
A copy of the video so you can see it, yes.
well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you for coming.
I'm glad you
I'm so glad to see you again.
Take care. We'll have to get together sometime.
Definitely. Definitely. I want to try and see if I can find a chance to
husband,
also with two
sponsor,
other adult ups that we had
the
last year.
person
We
who
went
did
through it. They gave me good literature, especially with
Yeah.
the new rule that came out this year.
Okay, so that was it.
Unfortunately, over here, or I could
What he said was, if we have a chance next week, I would like to review this slowly and press pause.
there weren't that many, no, it was just a good
I'm quite convinced ACL
it's actually quite simple, really.
letter to
I've
somehow,
actually got
he says, in this company,
but in reality,
You know, it's, they did a CPR instance, they get credit for that. It's considered as a very Why not? Yes. Yes. So, I think that was a
goodness. Thank you all for your great efforts. The pin was beautiful. And so was the program. I think it was a success. It's great. Oh, the photo album. Again. Or just we do with the new album.
Is that right? With Chuck River and that? Oh, I would not be surprised at all.
Yeah, but the pictures themselves.
My ex-father-in-law worked for Chuck River.
No, but are they sticking up to them? Okay. I didn't.
Last day he went to the camera. That was
What we showed with an agenda, all the pages. It's a good point that Sue had. We have these photo albums from a while ago. There was a big gap that now we're starting to talk about it. Especially now that we're yeah. You might be running into, you might be yeah, if we wanted to scam them every electronic. I want to see
come up for their noon hour meeting.
I didn't intend to have such a big memory card for this one. I bought a new big card. Thank you. I haven't told you.
I feel like I've gotten over the hump, and I'm standing up to the tall guys.
The battery's really good.
You're also broad. Yes, that helps. That helps. Yeah, just like I made that comment. I'll speak from above the stomach. Yeah. Like it was like Jeff Foxworth. Well, yeah, you were here for that? Well, it's not almost train wrecks. I didn't play so well in the speech. You were here for that? You might be a Toastmaster if you have any. You heard and clap for everything. You might be a Toastmaster. About a year and a half, yeah. I'm coming to 6. You might be a Toastmaster if you have bread sauce.
It was the area.
Yeah. No, here.
Can't get over this old camera.
Don't worry. Everybody in here knows.
More light than Johnny.
Here's tradition.
I think the monitor's better. Okay. It's going to be my
and Chris Ward brought some lawnmower from Montreal.
Some parts of their voice.
And answer what was there.
I've already wondered. Well, before you start talking about high
The process is paperwork was one thing, but the people, elevates everybody. A little bit of I remember one time I realized how much important you guys are. Is a contest sitting in Boston, Ottawa, and I
Beverly and Sue still have anyway, that's when I realized, like, everyone's panicked.
No, I'm not here. I am never here.
Like, I like this because I met you once upon a time. Montreal, San Adele, and there's this one party last when I left at 4:53 with Jeff. And the funny thing was, I was at the door, and every time the door knocked, I had to go to the bathroom for the door to swing open to let more people in. No one went out. And Bob couldn't help my place as man, or sit, so he ended up standing in a, that was crazy. And what's his name?
Now that must have been some barbecue.
No, I don't. It's pure Dutch and bacon.
I think more the bacon than the Dutch. I have to look at the albums. I didn't get to see the album.
He came up quite a few times now.
These are the pictures that are inside our... Yes, nice seeing you again. Are you heading after...
Oh, okay. There's a commissioner security card.
Oh, yes, yes. Let Jackie show you a picture.
Okay. The last time we had a jump start in the back tail light in the parking lot.
I really like this
That's right. That was a good idea. Of course, this is a surprise. We opened that up, I'm sure. I know I was surprised. I knew I was surprised.
Yeah. Yeah, I had something. One reason why Judith has a lot of It would have been the original, like Karen Neal.
Do the Elvis side. She was a judge. She was crying. I said, I will not. Some of them say that. By the time you got the short hair like that. Italian.
Probably older than that.
I like this one. These are from inside our car. That's good. Our son is working. They're inside here. Oh, the
Yes.
Yeah, it starts cracking out.